Hello everyone, and we are live on Facebook, live streaming. Welcome to Awareness Through Movement Home Moves, Session 2, presented and funded by the City of Darebin, Get Active, Autumn. So, hopefully you would have engaged with our class from last week, which was Session 1, funnily enough, and that's what's brought you here to Session 2. Otherwise, if you are new to the course, then welcome. Having done Session 1 is not a prerequisite for doing Session 2. What is a prerequisite is just making sure you're comfortable and finding yourself some space on the floor, because this lesson is entirely going to happen lying down on your back, actually. So I'll just give you a moment to set yourself up, and a couple of pointers. First one is, well, I'll show you who you joined with today. So we've got Rachel, and give us a wave, Rachel. So Rachel and I are in lockdown together, and so she's my willing participant in these lessons. Now, so she's the video participant, and it's really great to have a visual reference. However, as much as you can, don't look at the screen. It's not about looking at the screen, and it's not about looking at Rachel as a model for how to do these lessons. She's in the exploration just like you are, just like anyone else is. And what is useful though is I'm going to be speaking to Rachel, and so if I see her doing it in a way where there's something which I can assist her to correct the action or to improve the action, then I will. So if you find yourself getting confused or lost, particularly in positional ways, like what knee am I meant to be holding or what hand is behind my head, then it can be really useful to just take a glance at the screen and see what position Rachel's in, because she will pretty much be in the right position, because if she's not, I will correct that. So that's why it's useful having Rachel. So thanks, Rachel. Now, last week we had skeleton cam. This week we're not having skeleton cam. The skeleton this week is actually over here. Say hi. Hello. All right, I've just pulled him off his thing. That's not good. Oh no, sorry, Rachel. Oops. Okay. Can you just chuck the skeleton's limb out of the camera shot? Thank you. That might be these elbows still in the shot. Thank you. All right. So instead of skeleton cam, we've got a second view of Rachel. So this just might be informative or instructive at some times, just to have a different shot of Rachel. Okay. So that's that. So hopefully you're comfortable now, and you've got a position that you've taken up on the floor, and hopefully you're wearing clothes that are comfortable enough for you to be able to move in uninhibited. And that's about it for the intro. It's important that you go easy in these lessons, do less rather than more, particularly because this is a one-way video communication. It's very important that you take responsibility for your safety and your comfort. So if you're uncomfortable, notice it, which is just a great lesson in life, full stop. But where liability is concerned, especially mine, it's really important that you take responsibility for your safety. So I can't take responsibility for your safety, and therefore I'm not liable, basically, is what I'm saying. Now, the good thing is these lessons are designed to be easy and comfortable in terms of your effort expenditure, it's very important that you notice where you are efforting, where you are employing a a lot of effort, because we want to notice that so you can pull back from that and give yourself some wriggle room. But I'll speak to that over the course of the lesson. All right, so for now, okay, deep breath. You take a deep breath as well. We'll all take a deep breath. Rachel, take a deep breath. Breathing's a very big part of these lessons. It's very important that you notice when you're breathing comfortably and when you're holding your breath. Breath being held or constrained in some way is a very clear sign that effort is being employed. Now, these lessons, awareness through movement, what they're largely, yes, they're about sequences of movement, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to string sequences of movement together in a graceful and aesthetically pleasing way. However, that's not entirely the point of awareness through movement. The point is playing with the space between the intention to act and the act itself. Now, in that space, we as human beings, we have the capacity to play in that space. So, and that space is where habit and compulsion reside. So when I give an instruction to do a particular movement or a particular exploration, the job for you is to not just barrel straight away into your set routine. It's to pause, notice what would have happened, notice what you would have done, and pause and just inquire into yourself, is there another way? Just because that's how you would have done it doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can do it. That's where we want to play. That's the field of play in these explorations. So that's enough said about that for now. And I'll return, I'll give you hints about this as we go. So lie down on your back and just notice the nature of your, when you see me looking down like this, I'm looking at Rachel. So notice the nature of your contact with the floor. So what do I mean by that? So feel the areas that feel like there is pressure, that are hard underneath you. And notice the places that are not. Notice the places that feel soft. And in particular, notice the nature of your contact between your pelvis, the back of your pelvis, all the way through to the top of your shoulders. Because that area is the area that we're going to be playing with today. And when we return to these little rest periods, these will be moments where you can return to your inward sense of yourself, to feel what's changed. What's changed in terms of the nature of your contact with the ground, your surface contact and the connection with your ground. Now, remembering what I've just said about noticing what happens between the intention to act and the act itself, and remembering what I've just said about moving slowly so you can extend awareness into your action, could you lift your head to look down at your feet? And lower your head. And just do that a few times. And just notice what you can notice. First of all, with what muscles are used to do that and how much effort is required. And secondly, notice how your contact with the floor changes in doing that movement. So for most people, this is it requires a fair amount of exertion to lift your head. The head is heavy and it's at the end of your spine. And the further away elements of ourselves are from the center of ourselves, the harder they are to lift. Okay, that's enough. So just remember how high you were able to go. Recall, was your breathing a part of it? Do you know whether you were exhaling or inhaling as you lifted your head? Could you now take your right hand and put it beneath the back of your head? And with the assistance of your right arm, could you once again lift your head to look down at your feet? Notice your breathing. Notice when you choose to breathe. Next time your head's lowered, just pause for a moment. Keep your right hand under your head. Could you take your left hand and put it on your stomach, just at the junction between your lower ribs and your abdomen. So you can kind of feel that, that ridge of your ribs. And once again, lift your head and just notice what you can feel in terms of your stomach muscles. So just focusing your attention on what's happening with those muscles and just see if that changes how you're doing it. And pause. And this is a good time to add in here that there's a lot of repetition in awareness through movement, but it's not exercise. We're not doing repetitions to build strength. We're doing it to build capacity, and in a funny way, the repetitions are about elimination. Eliminating extraneous effort, eliminating habitual holding patterns, and arriving at improvement through a process of elimination rather than learning new action. So a lot of these things you know how to do. They are familiar movements, often obstructed by other muscular patterns that interfere with the action. And in unpacking those and removing them, new ease of motion can be found. Can you now interlace both hands or interlace the fingers of both hands and place them behind your head? And pull your head forward to look down at your feet, and do that several times. As you do it, notice when you breathe, and allow your elbows to come closer together as you lift your head. move only as fast as you're breathing. So your breathing and your movement are in a correspondence. And feel how many of your vertebrae are peeling off the floor as you do this. Just notice it. Okay, next time your head is up, I want you to keep your head there, but then lower your arms. Remove your arms. And just feel your muscles are holding you in place. What's keeping you there? Feel where your pelvis is in relation to your head and your ribs, and then lower your head. And just have a little rest. Put your hands by your side. Just gently roll your head slightly side to side. So already, just notice whether anything is fatigued. The rests are not because your muscles should need a rest because they've worked so hard. The rests are moments to allow your central nervous system time to integrate the learning that is happening, for you to make sense of what's going on here. It's also an opportunity to just feel into what's changed. So here you are, returning to the starting position of just lying on your back with your hands by your sides. So just feel, is there any difference in what sort of surface contact you can feel beneath you between your pelvis and the upper shoulders? Now, could you take both hands and put them on your sternum? So the middle of your chest, between your collarbones and that lower part. In fact, let's just explore that. So place one finger on the bottommost central part of your rib cage. So, and you can feel a little depression there. You can feel a divot. And it's, Rachel seems to have found it. Okay, so that's the bottom of your sternum. And your sternum runs centrally up the center of your rib cage. This is where it would be handy having Mr. Skeleton. In fact, I'm going to bring him up here. All right, hang on a second. Skeleton, you're required. Okay, this is the sternum. So this is the little divoty bit that you can feel here. And so when I say put your hands on your sternum, I'm talking about this vertical central place. So you can put one hand here and one hand here, say, but just to feel this bony vertical ridge that your ribs are attaching to. Thank you, skeleton. So place both hands on your sternum and push down on your sternum, not directly down to the floor, but down in relationship to you, so down to your feet. And as you do that, lift your head. And just feel this relationship between this downward motion, downward force of your sternum and therefore your rib cage, how that interacts with your abdomen and how your abdomen reacts to your pelvis to lift your head. And just feel whether your breathing can be a part of this, and just feel whether this is any easier than how it was lifting your head at the beginning. So by now you've probably ascertained that breathing out is the easier way to go here. So just pause for a moment and we'll just talk about that. Why is breathing out easier? Because in the engagement of those abdominal muscles, you want to give them room to move. So if the rib cage is depressing, if the rib cage is decreasing and flattening, then those abdominal muscles are going to be better able to act upon it. Now, when muscles shorten, they shorten from both ends. So the abdominal muscles are attached to the top of the pelvis, and they're also attached to the rib cage. So if those muscles are shortening, they're bringing both of those structures together. Now, because the neck and the head, or the head is sitting on top of the neck, it's going to make all of that structure be able to fold in upon itself in a way that's easier. So to bring the extremities, in this case the head, closer to the center by lifting. So just engage in that again. So, and this time really think about what you found through pushing your sternum down, this sense of depressing the rib cage and engaging the abdominal muscles to shorten yourself through the front. And of course, breathing out assists this because it's like evacuating a balloon. It's very hard to fold a full balloon in half because it's not erect. It's what is it? It's expanded. It's full. So you want to let some air out to allow that structure to fold. Okay, that's great. Have a little rest. Could you bend your knees and stand your feet? Now put your feet comfortably apart. So your knees are comfortably apart. Comfortably apart, for most people, is going to mean about shoulder width. Now we could go into a full exploration of that, but I won't. We could make a whole lesson about exploring the comfort of where your legs are. But we'll just fast track it, shall we? Now, could you take your right hand and place it behind your head? And take your left hand and grasp your right knee. So lift your right knee and wrap your left hand around the inside of your knee and keep your thumb and your fingers together. So if you're unclear about this, Rachel's doing it in the correct fashion. However, her hand is just out of shot. Can you just bring your knee slightly to the left, Rachel, just to bring your knee in shot? Yep, slide your whole self across. Great. Now, could you take your right elbow towards your left knee? And just feel, again, remember, do this slowly and just feel what the habitual is and just feel how you're going to do it in this instance. And also employ what you've just discovered about depressing your rib cage and depressing the sternum to be able to fold yourself. Also, remember what you've just discovered about your breathing. Breathing's a part of it. It's always a part of it. Every time you return to the floor, allow your elbow to relax and to lie back on the floor. Now your elbow and your knee do not have to touch. It's really important. This is a direction that you're moving in. It's not about an end goal. It's not about your elbow and your knee touching. It's about them just coming towards one another and you feeling what you do. And in feeling what you do, really notice what's happening at the back of yourself. What's happening with the contact that you're making with the floor as you bring your right elbow towards your right knee. And pause, let that knee down. Could you now take your left knee with your left hand and bring your right elbow towards your left knee? And so you're bringing your knee and your elbow together. It's not just your elbow that's doing the work. Just notice where ease turns into effort. Notice how your breathing can be a part of this. And notice in particular how the contact with the floor changes when you're going in this diagonal. What parts of your back feel like they press against the floor when you do it? Crossing the diagonal from your upper right to your lower left. And pause and stretch your legs and put your arms by your side and have a rest. Just roll your head gently side to side. And pause and just notice anything that's changed about your contact with the floor with the back. Could you take your left hand and place it under your head? Let your elbow hang back on the floor as much as you're able. And could you take your left knee with your right hand? And slowly, and employing everything that you've learnt to this point, could you take your left elbow towards your left knee? And explore. I should say this, like in seeing Rachel pause then, it's really important that you give yourself room to play with here. Explorations, curiosity, making mistakes are vital, and they're a really important part of this process. It's only through making mistakes that you can arrive at understanding of what works for you and what doesn't. So please don't feel constrained by directions like the one I just gave, like remembering what you've just learnt, because it sets up something which is a constraint in itself. So sorry about that. Much better that you just play with this whole kind of realm of experience that we're developing here together, and feel free in it. And like much better than feel constrained is that you feel like it's okay to make mistakes and you can have a bit of a laugh. It's through laughing and bringing lightness and joy to the process that learning becomes easier. And okay, so pause. Could you now take your take your left elbow to the inside of your left knee. No, so keep your hand behind your head and you're just changing the direction. Just feel how you do that.
And this leg's down.
Yeah. Actually, no, that leg, sorry, I should have noticed that earlier. That leg should stay bent.
That was my pause before.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, viewers. So both knees stay bent. One of them's just picked up. Could you now take your forehead towards your left knee? And again, just feel what's changed here. In these different variations, just feel how little things shift and change. And so what muscles are employed? How is it different? How's the nature of your contact with the floor change? What about your chin? Take your chin towards your left knee. How's that change it? And can your breathing still be a part of it? What about your right ear? You can take your right ear towards your left knee. What about your left eye? Take your left eye towards your left knee. So each variation, there are subtle changes. Okay, and pause. Can you swap your hands? So put your left hand behind your head and take your right hand behind your head, left hand to knee, and now take your right elbow towards your left knee. Just feel whether that's any easier than before. Okay, lie down, have a rest. Let your legs go long, let your hands go by your side. Okay, just feel for those changes. Feel the fullness of your breath. Just feel when you breathe in, just feel the places that your breath is expanding into in your ribcage. Notice any parts of yourself that feel closer to the floor or further away. Now, can you bend your knees and bring them up over your chest? And so lift your feet off the ground and cross your arms over and put your left hand in the crease behind your right knee and your right hand in the crease behind your left knee, and keep your thumbs and your fingers together. And just a few times, separate your knees. So take your knees far apart, let your head hang back on the ground, on the floor, and then bring your knees close together. And just feel if you can be comfortable in this little exploration. Just feel what happens in your shoulders, and feel what's happening in your upper back and in your neck, in separating your knees and then bringing your knees close together. Oh, and so I should say, so Rachel's position is actually correct in this instance, but so the feet are hanging down, you're not lifting your feet extraneously. Okay, could you now slowly take your head and your right knee together? So bring your head towards your right knee and your right knee towards your head. And lower. Let's do that several times and just feel how you do it. How do you do that in this constraint? So there's an imposed constraint here, like you're in a different position, and this different position is imposing effects on your movement possibilities. So how do you move through them?
Does it matter which hand is on top?
No, but note which arm's on top. It's a good question. Note which arm's on top. Okay, now take your head towards your left knee. Let's do it several times. Which side's easier? Now do it towards your right knee again. And just notice which side's easier. And what's happening with your ribs. Okay, and let go, stretch out, have a rest. Okay, so bring your knees up over your chest again and cross your hands over in the crevices of your knees in that same way, but this time reverse the position. So the hand that was on top, now have on the bottom. So your hands are being squeezed by your calf muscles because your hands and your fingers and your thumbs in those creases of your knees, and your hands are crossed over. So your left hand is in the crease behind your right knee, and your right hand is in the crease behind your left knee. Okay, and hopefully this is in the reverse position to what it was before. And once again, pull your knees apart and bring them together, and your head is hanging back here, and just feel how it is in this this is most likely your non-habitual way to do something, which is probably not a very habitual movement anyway, but still, where you choose to put your hands to begin with is going to be the way that is most common to you, most familiar to you. So pull your knees apart and then pull them together. Yep.
You actually told me to put my right hand under my left knee first. That's why I think I ended up in the position.
Yep, quite possibly. Quite possibly. I wasn't saying that to try and make it be on top or on the bottom, just as a direction. Okay, so take your head towards your left knee. And your other left knee.
Oh. Whoa.
And just feel how you do it in this configuration. And then take your head towards your right knee. And so you're just feeling what makes itself present in the non-habitual pattern. Okay, and then pause. Could you now take your head directly up between your knees? So your head doesn't need to go between your knees, but just think that you're looking between your knees, looking directly between your knees to your feet, and just feel how you do it. Can your breathing be a part of it? Can it be full and soft? And what's happening with your back? And just feel the surface contact with the floor as you do this movement. Okay, and pause and have a rest. Breathe. Just breathe into your abdomen. Just feel the muscles of your abdomen expanding. Feel your chest expanding. And feel the contact of your back of ribs, the back of your ribs with the floor. Okay, can you bring your knees up above your chest again? And take your right arm and hook it around underneath beneath the creases of both knees. So you're grabbing around both knees, and so you're hooking your hand around so it ends up being around the outside of your left leg. And then just let your legs hang down and just find a way to be comfortable in this position. So let your head just be hanging on the floor. Just feel if you need to be tilted at all. Or whether you can find a way to be still flat on the floor.
Okay.
Notice if your feet are crossed over. Do they have to be crossed over? Okay. And take your left hand and put it behind your head. And can you take your left elbow towards your, hang on, take your knees towards your head and your head towards your knees. And as you do so, straighten your legs so your feet come up towards the ceiling, towards the sky. Now, I said towards your knees, so your head doesn't need to touch your knees. You're just exploring the direction and really feeling the places in your back that press into the floor in doing this movement. Okay, great. And have a rest, lie long. Bend your knees and bring your knees up over your chest again. And can you take your left arm and place it around the back of your knees? So you're sandwiching your forearm in the crease between both of your knees, and let your head lie back on the floor. That's it. Let your head lie back on the floor as much as you can, and you're looking for a way to be comfortable in this position. So, what muscles are hanging on here? What muscles are clinging on? And do they need to be? That's the question. And then take your right hand and put it beneath your head. Let your elbow fall back, hang on the floor if it's able to. Feel the way in which you can breathe in this position. And from that place, bring your head towards your knees. And lower your head and just explore. How do you take your head towards your knees and your knees towards your head in this position? Feel the contact with the floor and let your feet extend towards the ceiling as you do it. So your legs are straightening as you do it. And again, feel what presses into the floor when you do this. Just do it several times. Continue to do it and just feel each time. Can you do it in a slightly different way? Can you do it with a slightly different exploration? What can you determine about yourself and about your ways in doing this? Is your breathing still a part of it? Do you still have this sense of this moving down, the downwards direction in relationship to yourself of your sternum as you do this? This depression of your sternum and this downwards movement. And pause and let yourself lie long, have a rest. Could you come into a cross-legged position? So come sit up on the floor and sit in a cross-legged position. And just move back a little bit, Rachel. And in that position, could you look down towards your cross legs, down towards yourself, and then up, and then down. And in looking down, think about the part of your back that was pressing into the floor when you're doing that last movement, and fold from there. So allow all of yourself to fold down in looking down. So this is a full body movement. You're not just employing your head and your neck here, you're folding through the middle of yourself. And think about the part of your back that was pressing into the floor. Think about that part of your back pushing backwards of yourself now. So really folding. Think about what you've learnt about your sternum and your rib cage, this collapsing of your rib cage, this depression of your rib cage, and this downward motion, this downward movement of your sternum. And that's great. Okay, lie back down on your back and have a rest. This is your last rest. Bend your knees and stand your feet. Feel how that changes. Just feel how that simple movement changes the contact of your back with the floor. How much more of your back is in contact with the floor with your knees bent? Now let's just return to where you began. Could you take your right knee with your left hand and place your right hand behind your head? And simply take your right elbow towards your right knee and just feel whether it's easier now than at the beginning. And now swap your hands over. So take your right knee with your right hand, put your left hand beneath your head, and bring your your left elbow towards your right knee. Feel the diagonal. Feel the surface contact. Feel the ease. Feel the accrued intelligence that you've developed over the course of this exploration. So your body intelligence, your central nervous system sorts through different ways and modes and methods and is able to arrive at ways that through letting go of extraneous action, letting go of extraneous inhibition, restraint, resistance, ease is able to be found. Not through, in this instance, learning new action, but more through letting go of constraining action. Okay, that's great. So let yourself lie long. Take a full breath. Take several full breaths. Just notice how you're lying now. Notice how your body feels. Notice the fullness of your breath in front of yourself and behind yourself. And when you're ready, you can roll to your side and sit up. And when you stand, I really encourage you to just notice how it feels to be in your body in a vertical position after having done this exercise, this exploration. And give yourself a little bit of time to find your way. Find your way in this new configuration. Because everything's different now. Ourselves, our bodies, our movements, they're dynamic and they change all the time. They change in response to the stimulus that's coming at us all the time. They change in response to how life is presenting itself to us, and they change in response to how we are in ourselves. So after doing a lesson like this, it's really, really useful to just take stock and give yourself a moment to feel what's changed and see if you can isolate what those changes are and take them forward into your day. So thanks for joining me for this lesson 2. I hope you found some value in it, and I look forward to seeing you again next week for session 3 of home moves. Okay, thank you. Bye.